So get this, 55,000 tech workers were fired in only 74 days. And the companies, they all said the exact same thing. It was because of AI. But a national survey of 1,000 hiring managers says a completely different story. In fact, 59% of them say that AI is used because it sounds better to the stakeholders rather than the actual truth. And so I did a ton of research on this because I live in this AI world and I help businesses implement AI into their systems. And so I had to figure out what was driving all these layoffs, which companies were telling the truth, and more importantly, which companies were using AI as their cover story. And what I found is pretty shocking. So what is currently taking place is coined AI washing, and Sam Altman has even mentioned that this is probably taking place. So the term AI washing borrows from the well-known concept of greenwashing. We've seen that before, where companies exaggerate their environmental credentials to look good to consumers and investors. In the same way, AI washing describes the practice of companies attributing layoffs and workforce reductions to artificial intelligence when the real reasons are far more mundane. And this is exactly what the data is kind of showing. And we'll talk about the bigger companies, Amazon, UPS, and Block, who have had massive layoffs, and they're suggesting it's AI. That might not be the full story. So Sam Altman put it bluntly at the India AI Impact Summit. I don't know where the exact percentage is, but there's some AI washing where people are blaming AI for layoffs that they would otherwise do. And then there's some real displacement by AI of different kinds of jobs. This admission from the head of the company building some of the most powerful AI systems in the world carries significant weight. And we'll talk about kind of what this means for you, what this means for the individuals who actually got laid off. And the reason AI washing matters is straightforward. When companies falsely blame AI for layoffs, it distorts public understanding of the actual labor market. Workers who lose their jobs to supposed automation may believe their entire career field is disappearing, when in reality, the same roles exist at competing companies that are still hiring. In fact, Anthropic, I love Anthropic, but they're suggesting that coding's going to disappear and they're hiring for that exact role. So it's kind of smoke and mirrors, of course. Yes, there probably is some use cases to AI. Again, I implement this for companies. I was actually speaking to a company. They do about 4 to 5 million a year. And right now they're only using Copilot. And so they are seeing some great ROI, but is it completely replacing some of their roles? No, not yet. This is kind of a story of don't watch what they say, watch what they do rather. And this is what I've always said. It creates a dangerous feedback loop. So when executives see that blaming AI for job cuts generates less public backlash, then admitting to all the other things, the incentive to use AI as a cover story only grows, right? So when you see Block cut 40% of their workforce, I believe that's what they did, and their stock surges, they're only just going to say AI. And if they cut the workforce with no backlash and the stock goes up, my goodness, all these other companies are saying, man, if we do this and our stock goes up, that's tremendous for our stakeholders, right? And for the board. That is a bigger issue, right? The result is a labor market where nobody, no workers, no policymakers, not even investors can accurately assess how much AI disruption is actually causing. Again, I've been following this quite closely and I've been reporting on Amazon and all this other stuff. And again, a lot of them are saying AI. And then when I actually talk to companies, agencies, businesses, brick and mortar businesses that are, in the mid 7 and 8 figures, that's not really what they're seeing. So let's go to some data here. So we see here that the latest survey of 1,000 U.S. hiring managers found that 92% of companies plan to hire in 2026. 55% of companies expect layoffs in 2026. So companies cite AI, 44%, reorganization and restructuring, 42%, and budget constraints, 39%. 59% admit they emphasize AI when explaining hiring freezes or layoffs because it plays better with stakeholders, right? And of course, like I said too, you're not going to come to your board and tell your stakeholders that, hey, we're actually having some difficulties within the company. This is some of the things. It's not a great narrative. Instead, you just say, wow, AI is taking the world by storm right now. There's so many use cases. We're actually going to start laying off people because we're going to start implementing AI, and ultimately this is going to be better for your pocket. It's narratives like that they're most likely using. I could be wrong. Top barriers being budget constraints, 48%, revenue uncertainty at 39%, and pressure to control costs, 38%. What we are seeing is workforce rebalancing. Companies are laying off in areas that no longer align with near-term priorities while hiring aggressively in functions tied to revenue. Most organizations are reducing roles that are higher cost, slower to yield ROI, or misaligned with new operating models. AI is impacting staffing needs, but it's also being used as an excuse. Only 9% say AI has fully replaced certain roles, while nearly half, 45%, say it has partially reduced the need for new hires, suggesting companies are using AI more as a hiring slowdown tool than a true workforce substitute, right? And that could be the case as well, right? If you already have A players and then you give them AI, well, you don't necessarily need to hire new talent. At the same time, 45% report that AI has had little to no impact on staffing levels, underscoring the uneven and limited effect it actually has across organizations. Many companies admit they frame layoffs or hiring slowdowns as AI driven because it plays better with stakeholders than saying the root reason is financial constraints. Right? As we already know, AI has become an explanation because it sounds strategic, forward looking, and inevitable, obviously, and it just sounds a lot better than saying, hey, we're having X, Y, and Z problems. So, in more recent news, we obviously had Block, Jack Dorsey, and they fired 40% of their workforce. And again, they said it's because of AI, but that might not be the entire story. Block tripled headcount during the pandemic. In 2019, they employed almost 4,000. By the third quarter of 2023, that number had ballooned to roughly 13,000, a 3.4x increase in under 4 years. So Block stock rose almost 700% in 18 months. And Dorsey responded by hiring aggressively across every division and launching ambitious new ventures. And then in November 2023, Dorsey said the growth of our company has far outpaced the growth of our business and revenue. So then they started laying some individuals off. And then obviously most recently, they fired about 4,000 in February. Okay, so Block eliminated more than 7,000 positions, over half of its peak workforce, while gross profit nearly doubled from 7.5 billion to 10.4 billion. So then Block was generating less value per person despite massive revenue growth. And this is one thing too AI will have an impact on. Essentially it's the value per person. So the value per person is going to go extremely higher, right? You're going to need less talent, maybe not yet, but you're going to need less talent. You're going to stick to a few core members and you're going to say, you're going to bolt on AI to them and you're going to see that the value per person, the value per headcount is going to be tremendous. It's going to be in the millions with some companies and the hundreds of millions with some companies, as some of these companies are getting funding at tremendous amounts with just a small team, right? So that's kind of a now thing, but maybe not with every company. And then we have TechCrunch, and the most recent company to say, hey, we're going to lay off some people is Meta, right? And Meta is reportedly considering layoffs that could affect 20% of the company. And this is wild, right? If this does happen, right? I don't know if they will do it. These layoffs could help the Facebook parent company offset its aggressive spending on AI infrastructure. And at the time of this recording, we do know that Meta has just come out and say they are actually, I think, trashing the metaverse concept. And they spent a lot of money on that, and it just didn't work out. And then we have, as well as AI-related acquisitions and hiring, Meta employed nearly 79,000 people as of December 31st, according to a recent filing. So if my math stands correct, it's about, 16,000 people with no job, if they go about doing it, right? This is speculative reporting about the theoretical approaches, a Meta spokesperson said in a statement. The report comes as many tech companies, most recently Block, have announced sweeping layoffs that they say are necessary as AI automates more work. But some pundits, even executives like OpenAI's Sam Altman, have suggested that many of these cuts are AI washing, where executives use AI as a cover for other issues such as overhiring during the pandemic. And if Meta were to let go 16,000 people because of AI, number one, their stock would surge tremendously. Number two, again, you would be saving so much money, right? So their market cap would go up and it would just be a heyday for these stakeholders, right? So obviously Meta is actively pursuing. They bought Manus. They even bought the OpenClaw marketplace, I believe recently. So they are headed in that direction. And so that is currently what's taking place. And if you want to be up to date on the AI market and space, subscribe, because I'll keep you up to date on the latest and greatest of AI. Take care. And as always, my friends, stay human. I'll see you next time.